Welcome to the Passive Income Podcast. I am your host, Dividend Dave. Please be sure to join the Passive Income Posse by clicking that subscribe button below. Super excited for today's episode. Joining me is Joseph Hadaway. Joseph, please go ahead and give yourself an introduction.
Yes, sir. Well, first off, Dave, thank you so much for having me on the show. I guess a little about me. I am a personal finance content creator, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, all of it. You'll probably find me there. Also, financial coaching, and I even to an extent like to think of myself as a little bit of an entrepreneur. So wear a few hats.
Yeah, definitely. Nice. 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 So, and just for everyone watching, most people know I'm in Canada. You are in, I believe it was North Carolina. I saw in your bio.
Yes, sir. Greenville, North Carolina, same town as Mr. Beast.
I was just going to say Greenville. You must know Jimmy.
If I ever run into him, my ship comes in, then you'll know.
Yeah,
My
right.
content level will skyrocket.
You're like, I will not take my hand off this Tesla.
There you go. If you ever see me rolling around in a Tesla, you know I won't tell anybody, but you'll know.
Right, right. That's awesome. No, yeah, he's an incredible young man. Not obviously not just what he does in creativity on his main channel, but the philanthropy that he does as well is unmatched. It's incredible.
Oh, absolutely. I was just talking about this on my live stream this morning. Mr. Beast as a content creator is phenomenal. But I mean, to put him in that one box, like you said, he's a philanthropist. Dude's a marketing genius, and with Feastables, and even I know this is a little sour right now, but Beast Burger going around,
Right.
you can't put him in one box.
No, not at all, not at all. And also like I would call him an environmentalist too with the work he's done with Team Trees and Team Seas. Like him and Mark Rober planting 20 million trees and cleaning up however many millions of pounds of debris out of the oceans. It's amazing work they've done. So
Oh,
I commend them.
absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Well, with that said, let's get into more of our conversation of what we're going to talk about. And I guess let's just dive in. You talked about being a content creator in the financial space, whether you want to call that, you know, div twit. It's not even Twitter anymore.
Yeah, but DivX doesn't have the same ring to it.
Well, I'm old enough to remember DivX was a video codec, so like I don't know. Like,
I'll give you that. That's a new one on me. Yeah, Twitter is where I guess X now, like you said, is where I started. I wouldn't really, and I mean, absolutely no offense by this at all, Dave, but I don't usually put myself in the dividend account list. More of the money twit
right?
or
Yeah,
the finance
financial
twit. Yeah,
FinTwit,
uh,
FinX.
Phoenix, that's got a nice ring to it. I kind of like that.
Yeah, there you go. And no,
Um,
fair enough because honestly, there's more than one way to skin a cat, so to speak, right? Whether it's dividend investing or total growth strategy, or I've had several guests on here who are heavy into real estate, like physical real estate investing. And there's so many different ways to create either passive income or just, grow your portfolio and your personal wealth.
oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. I try to say this a lot. Like I am more so a fan of the total growth vesting, broad market index funds. If you're here in the U.S., I like VTI, VU, SPY, those kind of. But like you said, more than one way to get things done is if you're investing in something and appreciating asset, we're all running the same race at the end of the day.
Right, right. And we're all running that same race, but nobody's trying to like beat each other. We're all just trying to get to the finish line together, or so to speak, right? Like,
Oh
and
yeah,
that's
I'll say there's more than enough to go around, and like your success is not my failure, and vice versa.
yeah, exactly. And that's what I love about the I'm gonna call it X, the X community, is that everybody is really cheering each other on and really motivating each other to continue and to do better. And whether it's that dividend investing strategy, and you see somebody posting, "Hey, I made a 50 cents in dividends," and people are like, "That's awesome, that's great, keep going, keep that snowball rolling." Or you see somebody in like a total growth strategy saying, "Hey, I made a gain of 20 percent or whatever, right? And you're like, hey, that's awesome. Just keep going, keep doing what you're doing. And so,
We are all fighting the good fight, and it's without a doubt, in my opinion, the best community on the internet. I've never seen a group of people so invested in each other's growth to the
yes,
most. I mean, I can name so many accounts who I don't even know what their first name is, like Accidentally Retired, The Wealth Coach, two of my favorite accounts. Can't tell you their first name, but
yeah,
they're quick
exactly.
to comment on my successes, and I'm quick to comment on theirs.
Yeah, same. No, I honestly, I follow them as well, and I couldn't tell you what their names are either. So fair enough. So you mentioned sort of, VU and a couple other there, more like, the index funds and the ETFs. Is that kind of sort of your one of your main strategies?
Yeah, index funds, and I'm slowly getting into real estate, physical real estate, like you also mentioned. Actually, kind of what I'm sitting in now is going to be our first rental, hopefully within the next year, but we'll see how mortgage rates here in the US let that happen.
Right.
But in terms of stock funds, I'm all in on growth. I will admit I do hold a little SCHD, which I know the dividend Twitter will rejoice.
Yeah.
But when I'm looking for funds to invest in, I'm straight growth.
Interesting. Yeah. I was actually going to mention SCHD because that is a fan favorite both on FinX, DivX, whatever we want to call it, and actually here on the Passive Income podcast as well. I've had so many guests and so many people that have held SCHD, primarily obviously American guests, but even several Canadian guests that have had SCHD in their portfolio. It's a incredible fund that holds so many of the great companies within that basket, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's I'm trying to think of the right word for this, but I mean, like you said, it's very broad based, very diversified. It's what I like about it personally is like it's one of the few dividend ETFs that I see that have a solid payout and solid growth.
Right.
Because there are some other down there that they'll pay out 6-7%, but then they're losing 5-6% a year. And I'm not buying for today. I'm not buying for next week. I'm buying for the next 30-40 years,
Right.
especially in a dividend portfolio ETF.
So with SCHD, I do have to ask if you follow Craig at SCHD Stan or I think his handle is at SCHD ETF, maybe.
I do not. I've actually never heard of him.
Oh no. Oh no. Okay, I will send you his link after we're done recording because he is incredible. He's been here as a guest a couple times on the Passive Income podcast, and he follows SCHD daily and he gives updates daily. And really, he does a lot of the work for you of just like posting whether they're up, down, whatever's happening with the SCHD on a pretty much a daily basis. So, yeah, he's one for you to check out for sure.
Hey, I mean, nothing but respect for it. I mean, if you can go all in on an ETF like that, I salute you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he does have other holdings as well, but that is his main passion. But it's a passion at this point, right? Like,
It's not. I like that. It's not an investment. It's a passion.
yeah.
I'm gonna
Oh
start.
wow.
I'm gonna start using that as a hashtag when I pump VTI on Twitter.
It's not my
Or
investment, it's my passion.
there you go. It's not an
Nice.
investment. It's a lifestyle.
Interesting. Cool, cool. I do wanna ask you though, individual stocks, what else does your portfolio look like? Like, do you have other individual stocks, and what sectors would that look like? What are you heavily weighted into in any given sector?
Yeah, great question. And I will say very, very few individual stocks. I'm trying to think like even I don't check my portfolio ever really. I get my email
Nice.
for my auto buys that go in every other Friday when I get paid, and as long as I get those emails, I don't even check the app. But that said, I know individual stocks. I've got a little bit of Microsoft, just because I'm a Microsoft bull long term. If I had to pick one stock for the next 30 years, it would be Microsoft.
Right.
Not investment advice, of course, for anybody listening,
No.
but that's just my choice. I
Yep.
think I have a little bit of Apple, a little bit of both Visa and Mastercard because I think Finance Philosopher on Twitter has kind of convinced me of their business model. And
Right.
when I say a little bit, I'm not even sure we're talking full shares of either of them. And then a little bit of O, and that's really it.
Nice. Interesting. You made a couple interesting points there. Microsoft for 30 years, and I definitely have to agree for so before we started recording, I was venting with Joseph about my day at work today, and we had a good little exchange. But yeah, obviously Microsoft is in the majority of offices around the world, right? Whether, I use Excel, I use Outlook, I use Word, and to a much lesser extent, I use PowerPoint as well. But every office in the world is using those Microsoft Office suite. Um,
Oh yeah.
right. So I can't disagree with that sentiment. It's here to stay in the next 20, 30, 40 years. Who knows? There's going to be other new shiny things come along, right? That people are going to try. But at the end of the day, Microsoft is and the Microsoft Office suite more than anything has proven itself over time. Like Excel's been around for 25 years now, right? Or longer.
Say I don't know the exact number, but it's been around a while. And I think my biggest bull case for Microsoft, I don't know about you. I'm a Mac user. I'm on a Mac laptop right now. I don't touch numbers. Their Excel competitor. In my opinion, it's garbage. I'll say
Right.
it. I'll call out Tim Cook. Actually, fun fact: Tim Cook. This is totally off topic. He and I are from the same small town, same high school. Went to church with his parents growing up. So
Interesting.
I would say if I have too many Apple complaints, I'm going to call Mrs. Cook.
Yeah, you should. Yeah,
Probably
exactly,
could.
right?
Um, but I bought the Mac and I used numbers for about a week and a half before I went out and bought my Microsoft Office subscription because it's head and shoulders above. It really is.
That's a very interesting take from someone who is an Apple user and a Mac fan. Like, honestly, like I'm the opposite. I have an Android phone. I have a non-Apple PC, and everything. I'm somewhat against Apple as a user. And part of that goes back to having iPhones that could not survive. The battery just simply could not survive a Canadian winter, right? It was like, oh, it was fully charged at 7 a.m. and now I'm out in minus 30 degrees Celsius, and at 8 a.m. it's at zero. Like, well, this doesn't work for me, right?
I'm just gonna like a little sidetrack here. I don't understand how you do the Canadian winter. That sounds terrible to me. I'm from the deep south. I lived in Alabama, then Florida. North Carolina is a recent move for us, but I've never seen snow in my life. Up 25. Yeah, there you go. There's the Canadian reaction.
What?
So you say negative 30 Celsius, and I that sounds like a personal heck for me.
Well, just to put it in perspective, at minus 40 Fahrenheit and Celsius somehow are equal to each other at minus 40. I don't understand the math, but somehow minus 40 Celsius is equal to minus 40 Fahrenheit. And that's a fact. You can Google it. It is the truth.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Little fun fact of the day.
And it's cold. I've been there. Minus 40 is not fun to live through. And apparently, for an Apple iPhone, the battery simply will not live through it. So,
I believe you. I've heard the same thing about Teslas as well. It gets too cold, the battery just stops and shuts down.
right. Honestly, I from what I've heard, Tesla has been working on that to improve the battery longevity in colder temperatures. I don't know where they're at with that, but obviously, Tesla isn't just selling to the US, they're selling to a lot
Mhm.
of places around the world that, like Canada, have much colder climates, right?
Oh yeah. One sec. My computer charger came undone.
No worries.
There we go. Back on. Yes. Yeah, they're trying to get my train of thought back. All right. Yeah, like you said, California, Southern California based company. They've had to adapt, which I feel like it's kind of hard when their CEO is a little focused elsewhere at the moment. Whether you
On
want to
X,
talk
apparently.
X, SpaceX, who knows what else he's got going on. I think he's up to like 12 kids now, probably spending some time with them, or at least I'd hope so.
Yeah, hopefully.
There we go.
Hopefully. You mentioned realty income too. I'm
Mhm.
a huge fan of REITs myself. So What are your thoughts on realty income?
Um, so I'll admit I've held them for a while. I hold less than 5 shares. They were one of the first companies I ever invested in, and they've performed pretty well. So I've just always kind of kept it. I'm not sure if you saw on X a few days ago, Tom, the savings captain, for every like he was going to put $1 into O. Not there yet. May get there, but not there. I love the monthly dividend. Just the idea if I can invest my cash flow every single month rather than quarterly from a mathematical perspective. When you break out the financial calculator, the number bigger number because you invest more often. But
Right.
we'll get to that a little later, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah.
REITs though as a whole, I don't have a whole lot of exposure to them. I did for a while. I thought I'd never ever want to be a landlord, and then as we've moved into like so this sitting in now, this is the process of becoming our first rental, and we're already trying to eyeball another one, maybe even a third one too. As I've been moving more into physical real estate, I've been moving away from REITs in the market. Uh, in a lot of ways, those are two different sectors between residential and then a whole REIT, but it just feels like a little much for me.
Yeah. Great points there. REITs, although they obviously you are investing in actual real estate, right? A REIT is a real estate investment trust,
Mhm.
but very different as opposed to being the landlord. I do just want to make a couple of quick points. Tom at Savings Captain, he has been a guest here on the Passive Income podcast, and I have been also a guest on the Money Happy Hour podcast. So shout out to Tom. He does great work there. I'm gonna have to go find that tweet of his and give it a like to make sure he spends another dollar because of me.
I think I retweeted it with like let's make this man's wallet cry.
Right. Maybe I did see that. Maybe I've already given that one a like. I'm not sure.
Unfortunately, couldn't tell you because I think he got quite a few. I think he put over 150 bucks into the next morning.
Nice. Well, that's good, right? Like, nothing wrong with that if it's a company you believe in. And I've seen some fun tweets or X's or whatever we're calling posts now. I've seen some fun ones like that where people are like, "I'm going to put $1 or $10 in for every like this gets," and then all of a sudden you're like, "Buddy, you just got like 500 likes on that, and you said 10, like that's five grand. You're about to."
I've been heavily considering doing one of those, like same thing, for every like this gets, I'll put $1 into like VTI or O or something. But then I remember that like my wife isn't really on Twitter, and I don't want to have to like walk up
Explain
to
to her,
her.
why are you spending $585 on?
Exactly. Like I don't want to have to look at her and where did half the savings account go? Well, you see, Twitter said.
Yeah. And I do everything that Twitter/X tells me to do.
If a guru says it, you best I listen. 4 a.m. cold showers, all of it.
Oh, I'm the exact opposite. I will never take a cold shower. Screw that. I'm not
Uh,
a fan of cold water.
you won't catch me doing it either. I I understand they say there's benefits, but that's something I'm okay passing up on.
Yeah, yeah. I agree wholeheartedly with your sentiment there for sure. I'm gonna dive into another sector is
Yeah.
financial and banking. Any thoughts there? And I do have a reason for asking you this question.
I mean, as a whole, I'm a pretty big truster of bank stocks. I know that's kind of hard to say after like Silicon Valley Bank was that 6 months ago, if that,
Give
and
or
a few
take, yeah.
others that went under. But like your more larger, more established banks, whereas I don't hold them personally because I haven't bought more individual stock holding in probably over a year now, maybe even over two.
Right.
I am a believer in the long term of the banking industry. I've my wife and I, of course, we share finances. We talk a lot, and we have been talking about adding a banking sector ETF
Oh,
into the
interesting.
portfolio just for a little bit of dividend income, if nothing else, safe dividend income at least.
So this isn't the reason I asked you this because this is going to be another follow up. But you
Mhm,
mentioned that your uh, wife was part of this journey with you. So
mhm.
I do have to kind of ask that. Like, your wife is 110% on board and understands what you're doing with your money and why you're investing it.
Yes and no.
Great.
So
That's the best answer ever on the Passive Income Podcast.
well, let me explain. It gets better. It gets better. I promise. My wife is 110% on board. We are in this together. However, I don't make decisions for my money. We make decisions for our money.
That it actually gives the best answer. So
So any investment we want to make, any even just change to the budget, we discuss before it's done. She also has a background in finance, so we keep each other on our toes, to say the least.
that's great. That's great. So circling back, the reason I did actually bring up financials and the banking sector, and my audience knows they're already like, "Are you going to ask him yet?" My audience already knows where I'm going with this. Is the Canadian banks,
Mhm.
and what are your thoughts there? What is your knowledge of the Canadian banks and everything like the history of banking in Canada, the how strong they are as companies?
I'll be fully honest with you, basically zero. And in terms of a lot of market things, I've removed myself from like the news and the happenings and things because I don't I don't like the I don't probably don't want to use the term wasting, but I don't like wasting my time on it. If I can put it in a solid index fund and go about my day, I
Right.
have higher ROI activities. But yeah, Canadian banking, I actually know like next to nothing about.
Okay, well, I'm going to give you the 30-second breakdown of what we call the Big Five, and now there's a sixth one, so we kind of lump it in as well as the Big Six Canadian banks. And so in Canada, the banking industry is so different than the US. We do not have the regional banks that the US has. So there's and the regulations are very, very different. Uh, the point that I like to make, again, being the passive income podcast and really focusing on dividends, is the Canadian banks, the Bank of Montreal, BMO, that maybe you've heard of, has been paying a dividend since 1829. So that's
Wow.
nearly 200 years. Bank of Nova Scotia has been paying a dividend since 1832 or 33. So again, coming up on a 200-year anniversary. And then all the others of the big five have all been paying dividends since the mid to late 1800. I think the youngest one is Royal Bank at 1870 or 1871. So over 150 years with that one as well.
That is ridiculous. Wow.
Yeah.
I know
Sorry, that was longer than 30 seconds, but that's the brief breakdown of the Canadian banks.
when I was first starting investing, I actually was in a lot of like the dividend investing Facebook groups. And I remember a lot of people talking about Bank of Montreal specifically.
Right.
But you could, I think you still can't to this day invest in non-American stocks on Robinhood. So I never looked into it.
Oh, they all trade on the New York Stock Exchange. All the
Huh?
Canadian banks are listed on the NYSE.
Never mind then. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I just never got into it, and then life moved on. I can't say.
Well, something for you to look into. Like I said, they've the big five, and now this sixth one has come along too. I'm honestly this number six is called the National Bank, and I'm honestly not sure how long they've been paying a dividend for, but I'm sure it's been quite some time as well. And obviously, in 150 to 200 years, it's not dividend growth every single year. It's
Mhm.
just the fact that they've been consistently paying a dividend for literally well over it's like nearly 2 centuries in a couple of cases, right?
Yeah, I guess fair warning for future guests on the Passive Income Podcast. Dave will send you home with homework.
I'm just surprised you didn't already know about more about them. So
Yeah, I honestly, it's something interesting to look into it. I'm definitely gonna have to. I got my second monitor over here, and I'm fighting the urge to Google it now, but because that is really cool, and I did not know that.
yeah, like I said, just the fact that they've been around that long, and I've made this comment before too. Like back in 1829, like you literally rode your horse to the bank to buy your share, and they gave you like a paper certificate saying you owned a share or 10 shares or what. And of course, I have no idea what those first dividend payments were. Like they must have been just a fraction of a penny back then. Like who knows, right? But
But still, though, I mean that, like you said, going on 200 years, that is a ridiculous amount of time.
yeah, it's an interesting little side note. At Settling Nomads, actually, if you don't follow that
Mhm.
person on X, follow them. They're actually the one who tweets every so often about the longevity. About once every 3 to 4, 6 months, we'll just like kind of update the current yield and just kind of state this bank's been paying since this year like 18, like I said, 1829, 1830, 18 whatever. So yeah, at Settling Nomads, big shout out to that person as well for providing some great tweets regarding the Canadian banks. And with that said, segue right into the telecoms too, because we have some very strong Canadian telecoms. So, what are your thoughts on some of the American telecoms, AT&T, Verizon?
So again, I don't follow individual stocks like at all. When I first started investing, AT&T was probably one of my first holdings, if not my absolute first. They had at the time, I guess this would have been like 2017, 2018. They had like a 4 or 5% dividend yield, and sounded pretty good to me.
Yeah,
Since then, though, I offloaded them well over a year, maybe even 2 years ago, when that stock price started, you know? And I'm kind of watching the same thing with Verizon. Like, they have that great dividend yield, but the year to year, day to day growth of the stock, I can't. Because correct me if I'm wrong, I know AT&T has been in the red for a little while now, and I believe Verizon is as well in terms of returns. Not I couldn't tell you their income statement,
right.
and I don't know. I'm a growth first investor to say the least. So when I see that red stock chart, I usually move on to the next one pretty quick.
Right, right. So again, I'm just going to give you the quick breakdown of the Canadian telecom industry.
Oh yeah.
Bell Canada, by far and away, number one. They've been around the longest. I would say TELUS is number two. Rogers Communication is number three, and then we suddenly have a fourth player emerging because of an acquisition that Rogers bought Shaw Shaw Communications, but part of that deal, Shaw Communications had to sell their Freedom Mobile division to Quebecor, which is obviously a Quebec-based company. So that's going to give Quebecor slash Videotron more play in the telecommunications sector. So basically, we're going to have like four major players. Bell Canada is sort of my favorite. It's the one I've been DCAing, dollar cost averaging into since the beginning of this year, maybe even late 2022. And again, just a solid dividend payer, longevity. I'm not sure how long they've been paying a dividend for as well. Probably close to 100 years. Also, I don't know. Actually, I need to look that one up just so I know what I'm talking about there. But so yeah, just again, very different. So much similarities between Canada and the U.S., but also like the differences of and part of the reason too is population, right? Like Canada is 1/10 the population of the U.S., give or take, more or less. And so we just can't support having, hundreds of different or thousands of different regional banks or hundreds of different um, you know, telecom mobility carriers. And so it's just obviously Canada's just a different market, right? So that's where I'm at with that.
To say the least. And I mean, from the way you're talking, one I may need to look a little more into. Sure, we could find a good, candidate market ETF or something of the sort.
Yeah, definitely. And also, I know for sure that BCE,
Mhm.
which is Bell Canada, is also traded on the New York Stock Exchange. And I know this because Dream Dividend, I'm I'm not sure if you follow her, but
I do.
she's heavily invested into Bell, so she really
Hmm.
likes Bell as well. So it's listed in New York as well. So you know, great opportunity for Americans to be able to invest in Canadian companies without having to deal really with any exchange rates or cross border or like trying to buy shares on the Toronto Stock Exchange when they're just right there, readily available for you sitting in New York, right?
Oh yeah, quick and easy. And I mean, even shout out American exchanges. Popularity of Robinhood, their Schwab's got a product for this, Fidelity's got a product for that. You're buying at no commission too.
Right.
Something that like my dad couldn't say at my age. Huge perk for investors today.
Oh, 110%. I've had guests on here that have talked about how, like what it was like to trade and invest in stocks in the 90s. And I'm not sure if you follow Master P, Ad Hop Guru. He was a great guest explaining how in the 90s he would carry around a roll of quarters, and so he could find a payphone. And he had his 16-digit pin scribbled down on a piece of paper in his wallet, so he could find a payphone and call his stockbroker at whatever time during the day to try to trade shares, right? And pay a $60 commission, whether it was a buy or a sell. It's just unheard
Yeah.
of these days.
Counteract, I could pull up like Robinhood right now and buy a full share of whatever I want, or even like a dollar fractional share of whatever I want, no charge.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. The times have changed and they've changed for the better. It has made it so much easier for younger people to invest. And it's just, you know, great for everyone really. Because same, we have one in Canada that's very similar to Robinhood. It's called Wealth Simple, but it's same thing. I can log onto my phone. I can pull up whatever share I want and buy it commission free, which even 15 years ago was unheard of, right? Like, in the mid to late 2000s, even when you had online banking, the banking platforms were charging you. Well, when the banking platform started, it was 29.95, and they thought that was great because it was half the price of $60. And then finally they came down to 9.95, and I know there's still some of them at like 2.99. I think maybe Quest Trade or Scott Trade, if Scott Trade is still a thing, might be still at 2.99. But yeah, like why would you pay $3 or $9 when I could pay 0?
Yeah, I think I've paid a commission once in my life. And that was for an over-the-counter stock, which is a whole ordeal. But luckily, anything like you said, American, even I've invested some UK stocks over the years, never paid a penny in commission.
Wow. Well, that opens up another can of worms. What
Ooh.
UK stocks?
Oh God, that is a great question. I remember one was a because now you're talking like 2017 me, and as my grandfather says, I've slept a few times since then. I remember there was one bank that I really liked. I really don't want to say it was the Bank of England, but it may have been.
Lloyd's,
I
Barclays, something like that, probably.
Barclays sounds right. It's again, it's been a minute, and I did not hold them for very long. Um, it was again, I was in those dividend Facebook groups, and somebody recommended it, so I went, "Oh, okay, let's go buy it real
Yeah,
quick."
yeah. Which, by the way, you should not do. Just do
Oh yeah,
not make your buys based on what social media tells you to do.
yeah. Luckily, I learned my lesson on that one. I made a few mistakes with social media investing, and let me tell you, learn from my mistake. Don't do it. I'd have probably several thousand more in the market now if I had not listened to random people on the internet.
Right, yeah. No, that second part is good advice. Don't listen to random people on the internet.
Not even investing, just full stop.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to bring up your not link tree. This is something different than a link tree. This is called Connect with Me.
Yeah, through card.co, much like Linktree, also completely free.
So I see you have a website here.
Yes, sir.
You have a YouTube channel.
I do.
You have a newsletter.
Getting that up and running as we speak.
You have free consultation.
Financial coaching, first session's free.
And Hadaway Financial, and then obviously over here, more links for Spotify, YouTube, Instagram. Where's the X? Where's the X?
That so I'm gonna pull the same answer that Evan, my money marathon, gave you here because I listened to that episode today actually.
Nice.
That's Card's problem, not mine. They got to get their stuff together.
Good answer. Good answer. Good answer. And so I mentioned YouTube channel and the Spotify link there. I am going to be a guest on your channel coming up real soon.
Yes, sir.
So I'm going to share this tab to show this is your YouTube channel as well. So make sure to head over there and give Joseph here, watch this. Here, watch. I just got to do this. See right here. See where it says subscribe. See that? Just click that right there. That's all you got to do. It's so simple. It didn't even cost me a dime, right? It didn't cost me a penny. Just do that. It's so simple.
And I really want to shout out Dave for unsubscribing before the podcast so he could show this to you live.
Exactly, right? Interesting. Obviously, these links will be in the description below, so you'll be able to find Joseph on social media very easily. Awesome.
Yeah, honestly, you pick a platform, I guarantee you I'm out there.
Yeah, honestly, I'm a little bit opposite. I focus a lot on Twitter/X. I've more or less given up on Instagram. Instagram's really not my favorite platform. I pretty much hate Threads. I tried Threads like the day it came out, and I'm like, this is exactly like Twitter, except not nearly as good.
To be fair, I think Mark Zuckerberg hates Threads.
He's like,
I,
what did I do here? Why didn't I make this better?
I would say I'm not sure if you've seen like the graph. They had 100 million active users, then tanked like immediately. Even like Zuck hasn't posted on there in like a couple weeks.
Right.
I'm kind of slowly figuring. I guess kind of on topic, off topic here. I do social media marketing and management on the side. So whereas I'm with you, I don't like Instagram at all. I'm kind of forced to like it
Right. Yeah.
because of the absolute just size of the user base.
Yeah. Interesting. So I've really enjoyed our discussion. This has been an incredible conversation. I'm just curious, anything else you want to get out there before we sign off?
Nothing too major. Just absolutely. Thank you so much to Dividend Day for having me on the show. Uh, listen to this, like, subscribe to the channel, as always. Hit the bell because you never know who's going to post next. And then I don't know the exact live date. I'll have to check my content calendar, but check back in probably a week or so when Dividend Dave comes out on my podcast, Strive to Fi.
Nice. Awesome. One last thing before we do sign off. Any not financial advice? It's financial advice, but we can't say it's financial advice. Anything you want to like shout out or say to people, like whether they're thinking about getting started or maybe they've been investing for a while, what would you tell people?
Budget, buy and hold, increase your income to put more money into the market, whether that be your 9 to 5, a side hustle, whatever going to be, and just wait. You're going to see a lot of accounts, a lot of Twitter accounts, X, whatever, Instagram. They're going to complicate it, but it's not. It's really so much of set it up once, and then it's kind of boring. You just go about your life and let wealth build around you.
Right. Yeah. Set it up once. Like you did mention earlier too, like just automation that comes out of your
Mm,
paycheck every other week. It sounds like you have automated buys set up. So
I do.
whatever, let's just say it's $100 or $200 that comes out of your paycheck every other week, and then just every other week automatically you buy $200 worth of company XYZ, and you barely think about it.
No, I wake up every Friday. I check to see if I got my emails. I'm done. That's as much. That's as much thought as like investing gets from me now, and I think I'm happier for it.
Right. Yeah. No, that's great. Like it takes a lot of the pressure and the stress out of it, right? Like you're not tracking, you're not, it's not day trading and it's not options trading. You're not like, there's no red and green candles and you're not worried about it. You're just like, over time, I'm, odds are good. Odds are really good over time, whether it's a 10, 15, 20-year time span. Odds are extremely good that it's just going to go up and I'll be okay.
That and investing in the broad, diversified index funds, especially like I've mentioned VTI like 5, 6 times now, heavily in the U.S. economy. If that falls too far and that goes to zero, well, I've got a lot bigger problems in my investment account.
Yeah, no doubt. No kidding, right? No kidding. Okay, sorry. I did prematurely say one final or one last thought, but okay, this time I mean it. One last final thought.
um, outside, like I said, it's boring. It doesn't have to be exciting. If it is exciting, you're probably either live a boring life or you done something wrong. One of the two.
Yeah, no, boring investing is good. Just make it boring and make it simple and worry less, right?
Amen. 100%.
Awesome. With that said, if you're still here, still watching us as we're getting well into the deep end, nearly 40 minutes later, please, like Joseph said just a minute or so ago, please make sure to hit that subscribe button, click the like, comment below, all the fun stuff that the YouTube algorithm loves. Subscribe!